Well, good evening and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition show. My name is James Slim Overton, and we have quite a few guests here. We have our guests and we have some guest hosts from different areas. First, we have Leah Drake Stitt, host, one of our hosts, co-hosts. Thomas the
Hello.
Colonel Chapman has his voice back, so we looking forward to hear a lot from him, even though he struggled through those other shows getting it out. He said it hurt when it talked, but didn't stop him from giving
Yeah,
his
his
opinion.
Cowboys won.
Uh oh, you heard that? You heard that, Leah?
I heard something. I heard a muffling sound coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Where it was coming from. Well,
Well,
we're gonna put it back into the box that it came out of, okay?
yeah. Well, you knew it was coming. You know, you got three Cowboys up here.
I was
But
gonna say,
anyway,
can you
we
guys please go Eagles?
Yeah,
Go
let's get some
Eagles,
Eagle
go
love up in
Eagles.
here.
we work on that. And the three of us are from Portsmouth, and we have John Gantz from Texas, and then we have Conrad and Melissa from Virginia Beach. And welcome everybody. And we'll get started talking about some of the topics of the day. But before we go into that, I want to mention locally, since this is Portsmouth Coffee Talk, concern of mine about early voting is only good if you are an informed voter. And I'm hearing from people that are working down at the early voting polls that quite a few people are coming up and not as informed as they should be as far as what the districts changing in the city of Portsmouth. So, and I'll make this one point. If you go in your district and who you thought you might vote for is not on the ballot, please don't write the name in there and not vote for the other two. Because what you're doing in a general election, that writing the name in might work, but in this election, writing in the name of the person you feel that should be in that district hurts both of those other candidates. So vote for one of the people that are actually in your district. I know you might want to vote for a certain person, but the district's changed. So, vote for one of the two people that are in your district. If you write somebody else's name in, you do a disservice to one of those other two candidates, the Democrats or the Republican running, because your vote doesn't count for anything. So just be aware of that. And in the city of Portsmouth, it's only like 4 districts that have changed in the delegate race, and that would be the 91st Waters Middle School, Lakeview Elementary, Victory Life Fellowship, which is in Craddock, and Hodges Manor Elementary. Those precincts have changed to the 91st. So if you're in that district, you are going to have to vote for, I think, Cliff Hayes or the Republican candidate. I'll find his name later so I can get that to you. But anyway, just be aware, what's going on in your district. Things have changed, and make sure you make a educated decision. Writing in names, it would be a bad choice because, like I said, you're doing a disservice. So thanks everybody for showing up. So we're going to talk about some of the recent issues, which there are many. So anyone want to start off?
Well, first off, I'll mention I just looked up on VPAP. Cliff Hayes, his opponent is Elijah Colin.
Okay, thank you. And Cliff is the incumbent, I believe, and Elijah is a challenger. Okay, thanks, Conrad.
Mm-hmm. All right. What is the most pressing issue that would be important, I guess, to Portsmouth or perhaps Southside Virginia? I know if we're going to branch out to national politics, I'd go straight for the speaker. That's what I would do.
What a way to go, Conrad. What a way to go.
Yeah.
Or we can talk about Youngkin, the Youngkin administration, the Department of Elections just coming out saying that they purged an unknown amount from the voter rolls.
Yes.
Did you hear about that? Yep.
Yep,
mhm.
they said
Yes.
accidentally.
And
Accidentally.
accidentally, and they happen to also be coincidentally linked to people who've had their voting rights restored.
Wow. Wow. That's
Coincidentally.
So
That's-
when I saw that, I sent a text out to a few people that I know that had their voting rights restored and said, I need you to check your voter registration right now. I need you to do not pass go, do not collect $200. You need to do it right now.
Uh-huh.
And
So-
so make sure that they weren't purged.
Is that throughout the state, or did they concentrate on certain areas there?
It was a statewide, from what my understanding, based on initial articles that I read. I haven't read anything today.
So would you know that if there's anything, say if you were just got your rights restored and you got on that purge, is it time for you to correct that and make sure you're back on the roads?
Yes, yes, and I know the ACLU is also working with the Department of Elections. I mean, some very strong organizations are really holding the DOE's feet to the fire, but because they said it was unknown, I think that's the big challenge. So you need to. I think it's going to cause a big problem for people who, if it's related to getting their rights restored, I don't know how easy it's going to be for them to just re-register. So that's why it's really important for people to do that right now, because there's still time, 30 days before the election.
Yes.
Well, I think that should be brought up many times.
I
'Cause
just,
people will probably wait until election day
Yeah.
and find out, and that'll be too late. So we'll just keep talking about it. But go ahead, Conrad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I opened up a side link on the AP, had this out, and they, first paragraph, Governor Glenn Youngkin's administration said this week, with early voting underway, that it is working to fix an issue that misclassified probation violations as felonies and has led to an unknown number of eligible Virginians being removed from the voter rolls. So that seems like could be a rather large amount.
Yeah.
And the timing is kind of off because
It's
they're
off.
making
Totally off.
closing that window where you can do something about it.
Talk-
Yeah.
That would be a rather quiet administrative October surprise.
Yes, indeed.
Well, and last year, if you remember, they had to process thousands of voter registrations that accidentally didn't come over from the DMV. So if you had registered, I'm sorry, I live where there's jet noise, so if you hear that, that's what that is. F-16s flying around my house. So yeah, there was a big problem with last year's election, and it happened within like 3 to 4 weeks of the election. So this is a pattern, we can say.
He's getting ready for his candidacy for president, you know.
I know.
Yes. You know what?
Or maybe speaker.
Well, people need to understand that,
Well, it's wide open now.
that Mr. Youngkin is not who he portrays to be.
Mhm.
He says he is a moderate, but we need to call him out as what he is. You know, he is just another one of those right-winger, anti-women, anti-minority, and anti-society and rule of law Republican or Confederates that holds office. He fooled the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, in a low turnout election versus a candidate that didn't really run a good campaign, and he made it to Richmond. And now he's trying to propel himself into to be the Trump alternative and/or be his vice president nominee. So,
Yes.
but we
And
need to
Colonel,
look
and
at-
that's
you have to call it like it is.
and that's all the more
Nothing good.
reasons why we need to vote, and we need to vote in major numbers, because if you don't vote, if his people get in, you're going to see some major changes taking place in the state of Virginia, and they will not be positive changes.
Well, and I think people need to remember, or well, not remember, but know this. October 17th and 18th, he is flying in billionaires to Virginia Beach. They are having the Red Vest Retreat at the Cavalier Hotel for 2 days. And it is the sole purpose is for it to raise money for a potential presidential run and raise money for his PAC to go into last minute major funding to run it for this election.
Hey, Johnny, that sounds like a Texas tactic.
Don't even get me started on that. I'm just saying that this is nationwide. This whole movement is a national movement, and we don't know where this is going to end up. I mean, the dysfunction is just extraordinary right now. We have a Congress that's not working. We've got a government that's not really working well, and we've got all this hatred inside the country and division. People looking at each other like they're crazy. And Texas starts it.
I'll point out that I just saw today that DeSantis's campaign is running really low on cash.
Yeah, I think DeSantis is tanked. I think we may have some problems if Nikki Haley comes out to be the candidate, but DeSantis, I'm not even concerned about him. His campaign is tanked.
Yeah, he's done. And
Well, they
he's
say
right.
there's
But
the
the
funder.
Republican Party will never vote for a woman, so I'll put that out. Especially a woman of soda color.
Yeah, but you know how they're tokenizing people
Yes,
of color
they're
right now?
tokenizing. It's just like Tim Scott. They're using him to say I'm inclusive, but they will never vote for them. So they're just up there temporarily.
Yeah.
Another candidate.
I think that Youngkin, I've been talking about this recently. It's kind of in circles. So there's a poll going out right now that asking if you would vote for Youngkin or Tim Kaine for a Senate race. And the only reason why I think that they're doing a poll like that is because I think he knows he's a little too late in the game, but all these people are throwing money at him. And he can still announce to run presidency late in the game, knowing full well he's going to back out. And then he's going to, I think, potentially run for Tim Kaine's Senate seat, because where I live in Virginia Beach, my district specifically is like 72% white. It's a more affluent area of Virginia Beach, like the north end. I don't live in the affluent area, but I live amongst the affluent area where the ocean front and all that is. And he has a ton of support. And Tim Kaine is like the only Republican that's won our district in the last X amount of years as a Democrat. So I think Youngkin thinks he can have that Senate seat in the bag. And then what he will do is he will run for president in 2028. So that's just a theory of, I mean, who knows, but that's just a kind of a theory.
Logical theory. It's logical though. Yeah. That's why we have to cut him off at his knees. Because if anybody running in any race, you can ask, what has he done for the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia since he's been there?
Increased vest sales.
Yeah. Take credit for the previous governor's work.
They tried to, his administration with that $3 billion surplus that we had, that they just signed up on that budget, that with that $3 billion, they wanted to give $1 billion of that in like corporate tax cuts.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Well, they already misappropriated hundreds of millions in education dollars.
Yep. Well, they did make up for that with the $653 million. But my issue is, where did the $201 million go? Because that means, so do we have $853 million, or do we have only the $653 from this budget? That surplus. So that question has not been answered.
Well, where did surplus come? That Biden money came down. It's that COVID money and all that. So he hadn't done anything to increase to get that money, other than that was a giveaway that the the Commonwealth of Virginia should be getting that money.
Yep.
Spending on infrastructure or education or something like that.
And
what he was supposed to be.
Right. They had in January, there was a bill put forth from some Democrats to provide. So I don't know if you guys know, but like 54% of the children that go to school in Virginia qualify for free and reduced lunches. So, and there's a lot more kids that probably qualify, but their parents don't fill out the paperwork. Okay. There's a lot of hungry kids in our state, 1.5 million students in public schools. and there was a bill put forth to pay for lunches, free lunches for the year, for 1 year. Danica Rome got the budget amendment. It was $271 million to feed all students 2 meals a day at school. The Republicans killed it. But the irony was, we know where their priorities were because they were offering more than $271 million to lure the Washington Commanders to come to Virginia.
Mhm.
Make that make sense.
Yes.
Nothing concerns them makes sense to me. But anyway, I'm so glad this conversation is going like this, because we need to have the local and state conversations year round, not just at election time, because we can easily get distracted at the shenanigans that go on the national level, which we'll talk about later. But people need to be informed about these. You should be in these conversations in your circles, people that want to talk politics, and talk to these subjects with people that don't like to talk politics, because you heard people on their way to voting with these ridiculous ideas about why they are voting for someone, and it's almost frustrating trying to convince them, or just convince them to educate themselves enough to make an educated decision at the voting post. So I'm glad we're having this conversation locally first before we get to the national scene, because it all trickles down, like we always talking about. All politics is local, so it starts here, and it's very important what's going on in the state of Virginia. Do they want this state to be red again? I mean, and we don't even need it to be purple. We need it to stay blue.
It just remain blue.
Yes.
Keep it blue.
Virginia Beach is such a problem. Like it's,
Well, Chesapeake is not far behind you now.
well, you got all that Forbes money over
That's
there.
right.
There in
That's right.
Chesapeake.
That's right.
Mhm. And the prayer caucus.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Yep. Randy Forbes.
Mm-hmm.
There's hope for Virginia Beach. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, we have Bill DeStaff, so he's awful, and he's part of our development issues on our local stuff. So we have a lot of development that there's a lot of land here in Virginia Beach, and like much of other cities. But we didn't even solve our flooding problem. They had us vote on like a 585 million or 87. Thank you, Conrad. $1 million bond referendum. And they still, they are working on some stormwater projects, but not at the pace they should be.
The two things for you Virginia Beach people. A lot of people were looking at the huge recreation center y'all built as a model for something we should do in our cities. How is that paying off? And along with the homeless, that's more of a humanitarian thing, that homeless center. But the recreation center, how is that faring? Because you all were the leaders in building such a facility, and other localities are looking at that. So if that's something that, because here in Portsmouth, we go back and forth, if that's the answer for some of the problems we're having, will that solve the root problems that we're having as far as crime and education and everything? So how's that plan in Virginia Beach? I heard it wasn't going that well, but I'd like to hear it from you.
Well, with the Virginia Beach, it's a very slow action. As she just mentioned regarding the bond referendum, that's something that only came about from about a vote of 2 years anyway, and they're delaying it. And we're talking about a city that has decades-long backlog in school building, decades-long backlog in replacing these recreation centers, because we have about 11. But there are some districts that don't even have one. And then there are some that are beyond antiquated. I've been inside the SeaTac Rec Center. I've been inside the Kempsville Rec Center, which is the more recent one built. And you can see the glaring difference in how good they are. And the fact that the SeaTac one, Virginia Beach isn't going to be knocking down the door anytime soon to immediately go build that one out. And they want to use it as a very flashy thing when the national eyes are looking. For instance, when Biden came to the city of Virginia Beach to do an announcement, he did it at the Kempsville Rec Center,
Right.
Which is not something that would have ever happened at SeaTac. Maybe The Great
And
Neck
the
Rec Center.
oldest historic African American community in the country.
Yeah.
But it would never happen in SeaTac. That's how our city looks at SeaTac, and it's disgusting.
Mm.
This is true. I mean, we have really good rec centers if you're looking at the one they want you to look at.
Great Neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have some real problems. I mean, I'm the person that goes to city council and I call them racists to their face in my speeches. Like I don't mess around with these people. I just can't. I'm disgusted with the way they treat some of the residents in this city, and people don't realize there's 6 to 7 unhoused children in the city of Virginia Beach, but Virginia Beach covers up that. Like they make everything look like it's all pretty and perfect. And I mean, every city tries to obviously do that, but would you think that based on the money that's in Virginia Beach that we would have that many unhoused children? Right. And people don't know that. And so I've worked in an unhoused community for years. So I'm glad you actually asked that question about the Parks and Recs, because I know that's something that Conrad knows a lot about versus me. Like I've been working in the unhoused community for 15 years, in most of it in Virginia Beach. I've done showers and converted bread trucks for at Winter Shelter. The Housing Resource Center was, I mean, we needed a housing resource center, but it only has like 65 beds. That doesn't even touch the amount of homeless people we have in the city.
You said how many beds?
It's like
65.
65.
65?
Mm-hmm. And
Think of it this way.
They moved it all the way down to Witch Duck.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're having worked in the unhoused community and talking to them, they want to be at the oceanfront. I mean, they the way that they sustain themselves in many ways, a lot of the dinners and the lunches that are provided at some of the churches in the JCOC, they are down in the oceanfront. So they build the HRC all the way at Witch Duck, and they don't want to be a Witch Duck. They don't. And the bus, we only have a bus. We don't have a light rail because the city's racist. And so there's not, our public transportation is not great. And they want to be down there so that they can help, they panhandle, or they're able to panhandle with some of the tourists. I have no issues with panhandlers. But that's also the source of clothing closets, meals, churches that provide for them. So the city is not doing enough.
I don't want to lessen the issues that we have here in the city of Portsmouth, but it bothers me when I hear our own citizens talk like we're the only ones in the Hampton Roads region having issues. And I can understand why, because most of the focus sometimes in the news is about what's going on in Portsmouth. And because we talk about our own city, I think it's important to know that many other cities in Hampton Roads are having some of the same issues, even though the solution should be, catered to each city. But it's not good, but we should know that other cities are having the same thing, and not to always put your city down like we are the only city that are dealing with certain problems. And that's why I asked you all that question, not to expose Virginia Beach, because Virginia Beach is out there, but just to let people know we're all dealing with some of the same issues. And sometimes we can learn from each other just by sharing some of the solution-based problems, issues that we bring up. So that's why
Virginia Beach just tries harder to hide it.
We tend to play ours out in public. And the other cities kind of hide theirs behind the walls and don't bring it out into the public.
That's
we
right.
close ours on a daily basis when the others don't.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm actually more of a fan of that transparency, to be honest. I think that, I get in a lot of trouble, especially in the Democratic Party, because it's, I'm a leftist and I'm mouthy. And if I have something to say to you, I'm going to say it. And you're probably not going to like what I have to say if I'm having to come at you. And I don't shy away from Democrats who are really Republicans and they're just, pretending to be so that they can get an endorsement from the committee, things like that. And so I get, I just appreciate Portsmouth so much for that just out there. And I know sometimes it's not great, right? But I do at least appreciate how things like that are done, because in Virginia Beach, there's many times, and Conrad can attest this, we feel very, very much that things are done behind closed doors. And it's that boys club, that, white man's, it's mostly been white men doing this, right? And they're making these decisions behind closed doors. And so when we go speak, right, they've already made up their minds. They've already made.
Of course, they already have the answer. You have the answer when you get there.
That's right. That's right. And then people don't step out of line by calling them out. But Sabrina Wooten sure has been in the last year. I'm going to tell you what, Sabrina's just been like, I'm done with this nonsense. I'm going to say it. And you know what people do? People go, oh, Sabrina, you're just being divisive.
Well, it's always interesting that people use, when you start to be an activist and speak on a subject, they try to reverse it on you and say, well, you're the one being racist. You're the one not understanding. You're the one, you're too liberal, you're woke or whatever. And I'm asking the question, well, what's the opposite to woke?
Sleep.
Sleep. And do I want to be sleep? No, I really don't care to be sleep. I want to know what's happening around me.
That's right.
And when you try to argue this with people, I'm like you, Melissa. I listen to it, and at some point I just said, I have to turn it off and say, look, I can't get my thought through, because you have no cogent thought on your process. You're just spewing out stuff.
Yeah.
That by trying to turn it around and accuse someone like myself or Melissa of being racist by bringing up the issue, that is a way to terminate the conversation. That way they can maintain the status quo and not actually do any changes if they don't even have to begin the conversation about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this has worked for years. I mean, this is not a new plan. This plan is this action of flipping the script on people, trying to make people, using wordsmithing. That's all it is. They use these very, very, very small 3-letter words: conservative, Christian conservative, moral majority, something that sounds good, but in actuality, it's screwing a lot of people. It's even messing with the people that are voting for it.
Well, their messaging is it's targeted to 4th to 6th grade level. I don't know if you know that, but like that the science behind conservative messaging is actually repetitiveness, which is
yes,
4th and it's worded in 4th to 6th grade level. And sometimes Democrats have a little bit of an elitism, right? And so they try to flip that back on us, like that, oh, we think we're, you know what I mean, better educated, more, or, you know, they try to turn that and make that negative. But there is something to be said about the approach that they have with the messaging being that 4th to 6th grade level, because it works.
It does work. It does work.
I got the book. I picked up the book by Luntz, who was the Republican. Well, he works for anybody, but he did all the focus groups, and he has a book called Words That Work, and he tells you how he comes along and thinks up these words, these little 8th grade, 4th grade words that people will accept. Because they're not going to accept the big ones. They don't even understand the big ones. And you're right, Melissa, we have an issue with we want to explain it to people, but we can't get down into the dirt and explain it. I think when Michelle said, when they go low, we go high, that was a great idea, but it doesn't work in reality.
Agreed. And listen, I love Michelle Obama, but I'm like, okay, girl, we have a problem. I'm ready to go real low. Okay.
We need to go
criminal low, but like I'm ready for low blow.
Low.
Need to dig a hole. Dig a hole.
You know what? The other thing too is, if you couple that with the MAGA movement and the Trumpism, and adding that 6th grade talk to people, but you add in that the lies and the Hitler type messaging, saying, I will tell this lie more and more often and loud as it can, and then it becomes true.
Exactly.
Gives you a
Right on the
double
go.
barrel shotgun, man.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. That's exactly what they're doing. And we are in what I call the slow creep of fascism.
Yes.
And that's why, it's democracy is it's not hyperbole to say democracy is in pale.
Yeah.
We have it really is. We have a real problem. And people are getting, I mean, y'all, I have family visiting here from Ohio last night. I wasn't gonna see them because I don't really talk to my family because I don't mess with racists. And even if you're my family, if you're homophobic, transphobic, any of those things, if you're afraid of people, I'm not your people, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, I had to leave that basically saying like, I don't care if I ever speak to you people ever again. And that is what has been brought out.
And Millicent, you're so true. That's so true because so many families have been split apart
Mhm.
because of all this negativity that Trump has brought into the world.
Yep.
And he's just dividing families, he's dividing communities. And if you saw the piece on Steve Bannon today, he is really the orchestrator behind a lot of those things that are taking place in the Capitol.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
he's been orchestrating this all along.
And Alex
Still doing his thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and they're still doing it. And this is what I'll say. Trump brought it out, right?
Yes. It was there. It was there. He just made them regurgitate it. He made them bring it out. Yes.
And what happened was when the Southern, I was just talking about this on another podcast, when the Southern strategy, when they said, oh, we can't say those words anymore. We can't talk about people like that. In the 70s, that Southern strategy was, we got to do this covert racism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do it through the system. Well, you're seeing 50 years of pent up white people.
That's right.
Who haven't been able to say the stuff they've been thinking until Donald Trump walked through the door.
That's right.
And he gave them permission to basically be used, because all white people have been doing for 50 years is using coded language, right? Coded language. And so now they're like, oh, we have a 30 some percent of us have a pass to not use coded language. And until some of us, the Mayo Brigade, start telling the other Mayo Brigade folks, okay, that you need to stop doing that and get in touch with your implicit bias. Trump is going to essentially, he has created an environment of which we're so divided and we potentially will be at war with one another.
Exactly.
In the next couple of weeks.
I'd piggyback on that because confronting it is the best way to eradicate it. And if I'm reminded of that story that I think within the past couple of weeks was in Massachusetts, I don't know if it was in Cape Cod, but the 14-year-old kid that tried to drown a black boy and called him George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even exist as a person when Obama's inaugurated. So that his racism is fresh.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you can't blame it on old white people.
You
It's
cannot.
a very, very young one.
That's right.
Maybe he learned it from older ones, but that means we, the contemporary people, have to address it now.
Mm-hmm.
So that young version of it can be much more sparse.
Correct.
You saw a lot of those young ones when you saw Charlottesville.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You saw a lot of those young ones when you see the rallies of the Nazi Party or the Proud Boys or whatever they want to call themselves.
Yeah, the Patriot Front kids. The Patriot Front, those guys are kids.
And they're down here.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
Patriot
the
Front.
home.
Yeah.
The home of most of those groups is right here in Texas. And the sad thing is the thing that what is sad is that we as Black people, we can talk about this over and over again, and people will just listen to it and wave it around. When a white person says something, then they might listen to you.
That's right.
We don't have the power to make people say something. Somebody can be beating me up, and I can say that's wrong. And until somebody walks in there and says, that's wrong. It doesn't look like me. I might just get my butt beat up.
Y'all, I have a folding chair, a vinyl sticker of a folding chair on my car.
A white one.
A white voting chair.
I got a black one. It's got a fist, and the fist is holding the folding chair, and that's on my car.
Well,
I
just
have a picture on my
Mr.
car.
Overton and Mr. Gantz, if you're in trouble, and the Colonel, just put the hat in the air. Just
Hat in the air. That's
This is
And I-
Texas. This
And I
is
think that's
Texas.
been something that was called for. You know, you get a lot of your friends that come to you, white friends, or that come to you and say something to you secretly. I support you. I support you.
Yeah.
But you need to tell them, so no, I need you to, I need you to speak out because,
Put the camera
you know,
down and talk. Yeah.
you defeat
that's what's gonna
covert
help.
racism with overt action.
yes, and it's going to help you as well. But let's go to the
Well,
the
before
house.
we go, Slim, let me get one thing out.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Colonel.
For the 4 years of the Trump regime, and I call it regime,
Mhm.
You should.
I flew, well, on the back of my car, I flew an upside down flag. What Navy terms is you're in distress.
You're in
I call it
distress,
a nation in distress.
Mhm.
And I had several times I've had people roll up beside me and honk their horns and say, "Do you know you got your flag upside down?" And then I roll down the window and they say that, and then I have to explain to them, yes, our nation is in peril because of what we have in the White House. And then they just roll up the windows and jet off and go off like they don't want to hear that stuff.
Yo.
But as soon as Biden was elected and actually took office, then I turned it around.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, let's go to the vacation and the vacated
They're on vacation.
speaker.
Yes, Congress is on vacation right now, as the government is about to be closed in a couple of weeks. They're on
Yeah.
vacation.
They are.
Yeah, without a speaker, and
Without a speaker.
why would they leave without a speaker? But I guess
Exactly.
they'll vote on that. And Tommy, you remember we were talking? We had that show. I think it was last week, and we were talking that they wouldn't have the votes to put in a speaker right away,
No,
Right.
they're not going to have the votes.
and we talked about that before it happened. And
Yeah.
so
But here's the problem. People need to understand everything that the House of Representatives has been doing for the last 8 months is to slow down or either stop the progress of the Biden administration.
Yep.
They want this economy to not slow down, but to stop.
Mhm.
They want to trump up all of these Hunter Biden issues and then say, I'm going to tie it to the father who has nothing to do with it. But they'll say, if you say it enough, when you listen to them, they always talk about the Biden crime family. If you're talking about crime family, that was the same thing. It's directly with the Trump regime. That was
Every accusation is a confession.
yes, it was a crime family, a mafia family, and that exists today.
Mhm.
And so we have to look at apples and oranges and have to call it like it is. That Trump and now they're talking about the Justice Department going after him. That is not politicized Justice Department. They want to defund it or derail it and also get rid of it to save the mafia king.
All the 3-letter agencies, that's their big thing now. Like, get rid of all the 3-letter agencies.
Yeah.
And then Trump said he wanted to take control of the FEC, the SEC, and you're like, this is fascism. Like,
Yeah.
well, how do
It
you
is-
not
it
see
is.
that? When Putin, 3 days into Putin getting elected in 2000, he took over. He exiled the only privately owned large media company. He exiled the owner, and he took that over and made that state media 3 days within getting elected after the first time he was elected. And Boris Yeltsin picked Putin because he said he was unremarkable. There's a great podcast called The Kremlin Files that explains that. And you can tell that Trump is getting all of his playbook stuff literally from Putin.
Yes.
Yeah.
If he's allowed to go back into the White House in 2024, that is going to be the last free election that we'll have in America.
I believe
He
you.
will be our king or America's king forever till he dies,
yeah.
which I hope would hurry up and happens.
See, I think everybody that's waiting to try to vote and run for 2028, there may not be a 2028.
There's
That's
no
right.
The way it looks, the way they're trying to run it now, and you're absolutely right. It's a fascist. It's just a slow roll into fascism and into autocratic government, and it's going to be an autocracy, and that's what we're not supposed to be. But they're going that way. And if you watch history, Hitler. We're such a young country first. We're only 200-300 years old. But if you look at the history of the Roman Empire, the Persians, the Japanese Empire, they've had these problems. These struggles have already been there.
Mm-hmm.
We're just starting to have it, and we're not paying attention to it. I watch the news channels. They don't take people to task. They're more excited about getting a moment rather than making a movement out of it. They're making a moment out of something. And eventually they're like, why are we going to, do you think it'll be that way? Do you possibly think we're coming that way? Hell yeah. We're coming that way. We're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
Small food for thought. I remember during the 2016 campaign and watching Ted Cruz finish a rather distant second, but still second. He was born in Canada.
Yeah.
How about that?
Who
How about
was
that?
there to stop him, to tell him, well, technically, actually not technically, overtly, you're not allowed to be president if you're not born in the United States. And we just sort of accepted that, in which case, let's say Trump wins in an actual election in 24, what do you even need to overturn the election process if no one's really there to provide any check and balance if he wants to run again 4 years later? He just say, hey, I just want to. And there won't be enough of a fight.
Yeah, he have Putin as his vice president.
Wasn't Cruz born to an American family though?
Yeah, but I think
if you're born to an American family overseas, like a
Yeah,
service member
he's still an
overseas,
American citizen. He
Yeah.
can still be president.
Yeah.
You can't be naturalized and be president. But if you're born to like John McCain,
I was about to say John McCain was born in that regulated but unregulated zone in Panama.
Right.
Yeah, people don't. A lot of people don't know that.
But he had American parents.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but he wasn't born on a military installation. It was this very
McCain was. He was on a carrier, if I recall.
No. McCain was born in around the Panama Canal when the United States took the Panama the Panama Canal. There was this small swash of land that was I guess it was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like an unregulated but owned by the United States or regulated by the United States. So that's where he was born. It was literally in Panama, but it was because the U.S. had taken control of the Panama Canal.
I wonder if that extends to people born in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
He
was born to American parents.
But he was born
American parents. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this new Netflix special that's coming on about this comedy called The House of Representatives. It'll be starting next month. So it's a new comedy. It's like a 10 series show that's coming up starting next month. Right after the election, called The House of Representatives. Let's talk about that and what's going on with the speaker. Yeah, I guess you all saw that coming because they, like Melissa said, they don't hold back anything now. They'll tell you exactly what they're gonna do, and then do it with just a small number of people.
And
it's amazing.
It's so interesting to see them fighting each other. I mean, they got a major war going on there in the House between the Republicans. And it's going to play out. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
And it's interesting that it's not among factions that are that greatly ideologically different either, because Kevin McCarthy and
they act like they are, but they're not.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin McCarthy, though, he praises Biden privately, but goes on TV and talks total trash about him. So, but I do think it's going to end up between Jim Jordan and Scalise.
Sad day in America.
And that's scary.
That's scary. Jim Jordan specific. I mean, they're both scary, but Jim Jordan, he is. I mean,
he's conspiracy central.
I'm kind of feeling that some of those Republicans who are not on the fringe. I'm having a feeling that they may join in with the Democrats and block that.
Yeah, I think they might. So the
It
only
might be
path,
wishful thinking.
well, the only path to
Wishful thinking.
Hakeem, apparently from what I'm understanding is the only path to Hakeem, which I just would love if Hakeem was the speaker, but the only path there would be the Democrats and then the Freedom Caucus, but there would
Exactly.
have to be some kind of deal made. And if I think the Republicans think that between Jordan and Scalise, they can get all the Republicans on board. And with Scalise, possibly. I don't think with Jim
I
Jordan.
don't think with Jordan. I don't think with Jim
But I
Jordan.
think with Steve, I think with Scalise, like I do think that they might be able to whip up a
Possibility
vote
with
for him.
Scalise, but not with Jordan at all.
So I would put, if I were a betting person, I would probably put money on Scalise.
But Melissa, they may knock each other off. Jordan and Scalise vying for the position.
Yeah, but if there's a lot of wrestling and nefarious stuff that's happening in the House, you can bet on Jim Jordan to look the other way when there's problems with wrestling.
Oh, you know that. You know.
Oh, the wrestling. I know.
Thank
Just
you.
like
Thank
he
you.
did at
Thank
Ohio
you.
State.
Thank you, Conrad. Thank you, Conrad.
I'm so bummed that Netflix special about that OSU thing has not come out yet. I'm like, can it please get released? George Clooney was doing something on that. But he's awful. So I don't know how many rounds they'll go. I mean, they're going to obviously try to like whip up those votes, but everybody's chattering about Trump. And I'm like, Trump is not going to have the votes. Like he's not going to have the votes. So I don't think we should be worrying about Trump being Speaker of the House. I could be
I
wrong.
don't even know if he would crack 200 Republicans.
I don't think so either.
And you know, and one time they were floating Liz Cheney's name as
Well,
a possibility.
she burned her bridge
That
by
was-
being anti-Trump. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
No.
I will
They're
say-
not gonna- go ahead.
just conceptually, I like the idea of a former president being a Speaker of the House because they have that technicality where you don't actually have to be a representative's member in order to be a Speaker of the House. The last person on earth I would want to be the Speaker of the House is the one that they're floating to be about that. But I mean, technically, Barack Obama could be nominated.
I mean, I
Speaker
do
of the
like
House.
the idea
Yeah.
that it could be anybody besides. I do like that, to be honest. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
we should explore that a little bit more.
But isn't there also a technicality to be the speaker? You cannot have a felony charge against you. And he has
But there are
91.
rules.
He has
That's
91 counts
rules.
against him.
Well,
They'll change the rules.
yeah, they'll change the rules.
Yeah, but with which leadership will change the rules in the process? Because if they don't currently have a speaker, I don't even know if they'll bring it up. So
Mm.
Yeah, they have to
Listen,
follow the
man.
rules like it is now. So
But I like watching it. I
Yeah.
mean,
I do too.
look, Hakeem has got the Dems whipped up, like, which shows you the unity right now up there is,
Unbelievable.
yeah, it's just chef's kiss. Like, it's literally like, it's great. And so you've got Matt Gaetz then, so you're like freedom. I mean, AOC and Matt Gaetz came together for a bill against, they put forth that bill against, what was it?
give me a second. I can-
Insider trading, like you're
Yeah.
trading stocks, basically. So when AOC and Matt Gaetz can put a bill together, you never know, man. They might make a deal. You never know.
But they're trying to
They'll
get
never,
Matt Gaetz.
they'll never
They're
be
trying to-
voted on. It'll never be voted on. It
Yeah.
won't go anywhere.
Oh no, that won't go anywhere. No. But I'm just saying that maybe there's some kind of deal to be made if they can't come to an agreement with a Republican, and maybe some kind of deal could be made to put Hakeem there as the Speaker of the House.
That'll never happen.
It'll
Isn't
never
Matt-
happen. I mean.
Isn't
Never
Matt
happened.
Isn't Matt Gaetz, the ethics committee looking at Matt Gaetz?
Yeah.
And he was just a,
And
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons why they said he was mad at McCarthy, because McCarthy wouldn't squash it.
right. He was just a few steps short of getting put out himself.
Exactly.
And he may still get that way. I mean, if his side doesn't win, the other side, I think the other side will take action to try to oust him out. of
Yeah.
the
Well, I think
conference.
they can't oust him as a congressman though, because he's
But
not
out
like
of
They
the
just
conference.
kick
But
him
out
out
of
of
the
the
conference.
conference.
They can make
Yeah.
him. They can make him like
a
Santos.
lone soldier. He'll be a lone
Yes.
soldier.
a lone
He'll be
soldier.
like George
yeah.
Santos. He'll be useless.
Listen, the safest place for a criminal right now is in public office, y'all.
You're right about that.
yeah, How can you overlook, dealing with underage girls? I mean, who was that? Joe Pistol that had to resign just because something he said,
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
Al Franken.
and he was forced out mostly by his own. He was forced out by most of his own party. And these guys
Exactly.
walking around with accusations that people know are true
Yep.
about dealing with underage girls, even if you haven't been charged yet, just
That's right.
the mere accusation, you
Yeah.
know,
And the
it is
cocaine
enough
at
to
somebody's
just
party,
Oh,
for you to,
cocaine at somebody. I mean,
yeah.
just dopey stuff.
Oh, showing Matt Gaetz showing pictures of underage girls
Uh-huh.
that,
Yeah.
on the floor of the Florida house. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and then you have Al Franken, who was asked, you know, basically was forced to
Al
resign
Franken. That's,
for a
I
picture.
said Joe Pistol, but Al Franken,
Al
that's what I meant.
Franken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Think
mean,
about who's Saturday Night Live, guys.
Yeah.
we yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we really try to hold. My thing is, if somebody's committed a crime, you don't need to be an elected official.
Uh-huh.
I don't understand how hard it is for people to understand that if all these things that Hunter's been accused of and Joe Biden's been accused of, okay, give me the evidence and they can go to jail. If
Right.
they like give me, you know what I mean? But that's not, they're just whipped up. It's outrage farming.
That's all it is.
They're outrage farming.
I
Uh-huh.
like that. Outrage farming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all said we like watching it and entertaining to watch them. What I can't understand is how other people can watch it and still support it. I have yet to have someone that supports Trump or anybody else to give a rational reason why they do, except for talking Fox News talking points.
Well,
You know,
we
no
discussed
rational
earlier,
reasoning for them to support anything that's going on, you know, with these guys and Trump, you know.
it's the vibes. There's something about his personality that it's like they wish they could be that.
Well, so my dad, I grew up in the Midwest. My dad was a police officer. I mean, just all the, like, it just checks all the Republican boxes, right?
Uh-huh.
And my dad I mean, I don't speak to my father because he thinks that it's like a kangaroo court and Mike Flynn and I mean, it's bad, right? So, but he like worships Trump in this certain way because he says what if I had a nickel for every person that said that they like Trump because he says whatever he thinks and they like that, which is actually, to be honest, why Republicans like me oftentimes, because they respect the fact that I will tell you to go F off, no problem. And but I come at them with facts. And I think that's the difference with Trump. Trump is what I have a hard time is understanding how people can continue to listen to the same things come out of his mouth and not at any point question what other substance is he's literally saying the same things over and over.
Yes.
I mean, the sad part about it is that there are a lot of educated people who follow Trump. I know a friend who's a judge in the Midwest, and he and his wife are Trumpsters to the core.
How are you a judge? How can you access?
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. I read the court documents. I've read the indictments. I go in and read those. How can you be a judge?
A judge, yes.
And it makes you question, like, what is in it for you? Is it power? Is it money? Is it ego? I don't understand.
It can't be
Power-
money and
power
because
slash
he
money.
stabs too many
Power
people in the
slash
back.
money.
I
Yeah.
think you answered it. I think you answered your own question, though,
Probably.
Melissa, when you said that he allowed people to say what they felt.
Yeah.
And education isn't indicative of not being a racist or being hateful or not wanting a specific policy to go about. I don't know if y'all heard, I'm sure you did, when they talked about Trump talking about the military and talking about he didn't want any amputees and Thomas, you know, he talked about us like we were dogs.
Yeah.
Why did they die? What was in it for them?
Yeah,
So
it was
I got
suffers.
on one of those.
Suffers
I got
because you
on a
died.
site and started talking to military people and saying, how do you keep voting for him and putting your flag up and putting your sign up in the yard if you tell me you're a patriot and this man doesn't give a hoot about you? He's told you that. But I can tell you, those people still went the same way you're saying, Melissa. Same way you're saying, Conrad. Same way you're saying. They don't care.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's hard to fight.
Yeah.
That it's hard
Mhm.
to. You want people
It's a
to
cult.
be cognizant, yeah.
Exactly.
Because if they
It's a cult.
cared, if
It's a
once
cult.
they find out, once they say yes, then they have to challenge their own mindset. What
Right.
got me here? Well, how did I get into this cult? Why did I start following this?
Right. And people already have a hard time admitting when they're wrong about something, right?
On normal
Naturally, like
things.
in normal settings, exactly. And so
It's
now,
across all ideologies. Yeah.
yeah, and now we have a situation where this is someone who's very powerful and he's been represented. I mean, I hated Donald Trump like years, well before he ever stepped on that escalator. I watched The Apprentice and I was like, oh, I mean, I liked that show, but I was like, you're a dog, like you're gross. You know what I mean? And I just didn't even think that he could ever win the election. And I think a lot of people made that mistake. And we're seeing now exactly the results of complacency in America. And I mean, if everybody in this country who was of age to vote would actually vote, I don't think we'd be where we are today.
Exactly. And you know,
You
and if
just
they
have
throw
to
that-
increase
if they throw that
enthusiasm.
third party candidate in there, we're in for real trouble.
Yes.
You have to get ready because RFK is about to announce that he's going to run
He
independently.
is
And
such a loser. It's a shame he's a part of the Kennedy family. You know that? He is such an absolute loser.
Absolute loser. And you know, in Virginia Beach just a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you saw that, Conrad, that I had shared there. Kat Porterfield, who's running for the House of Delegates in House District 99, we were out running a few errands. I try to help her on her campaign because she's not getting really any help because she's in a red district and the party isn't putting anything behind her, which is a whole other conversation.
yeah,
But
stick a pin in that, James.
Stick a pin in-
we can
yeah.
discuss that later. Yeah.
I'm so angry about that with the Democratic Party. But anyways, so we're down at the oceanfront in her district, and we see this bus in the Dairy Queen parking lot at the oceanfront on 17th Street, and it's an RFK bus. And this hippie dude with 5 children that they homeschool with his pregnant wife is driving around this country in a freaking RFK 2024 bus, and another dude with a trailer like that's got RFK for president or whatever. And they are touring around the country and they're getting donations. And now he said, because we stopped and we were like, so, and I mean, then we started talking about abortion and I about lost my, I was like, I got to go. I don't have any, nope. And so.
Would you bet those kids don't have their measles shot?
Oh, you know they don't. You know they're not inoculated at all.
Not inoculated.
Not at all.
No. And so I was just stunned and I was like, why is he here? Like, why? And then he said PACs, he's starting. So then we asked him some questions and he said PACs are starting to toss money into him. And he's just doing it because he says
making money
to do it. And well, yeah.
He's making money in the process.
Right. Exactly. So, but he had this bus painted in Miami and yep. And then you've got Dr. Cornel West, which honestly, I really like Dr. Cornel West. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't, we can't afford to have any third party.
Cannot afford to have him out there.
Yeah. Listen,
you cannot afford to have him out there.
And I want people to stop talking about Biden's age. The president is not the end all be all. It is one branch of a 3-branch government.
Thank you.
He has young people working for him. And let me tell you something. If it's between Biden and Trump, you bet your behind I'm going to be voting for Biden all the way because that man can cease to exist while he's in office. Kamala, step right up and then we'll handle it in 20.
Listen, don't say that too loud. You make them not vote. You make them not vote.
I want them to vote. So here's the thing. Biden, I'm so tired of this argument about Biden's age because the president is not the one that does the most. He does a ton of work. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I actually I'm so pleasantly surprised with what Biden has actually done from someone who wasn't really enthused to vote for him initially, but I did because I care about democracy. And now I'm actually really impressed with things that he's been able to get done on a bipartisan basis that the Republicans don't want to admit that they're doing because they know
Exactly.
that the people don't track their votes. They don't know that they're the ones
But
voting
listen,
for it.
they don't want to take ownership for it until they start the road development and the reconstruction in the community. Then they want to stand out there and say, oh, yes, look at all the infrastructure work that's going on that we voted on.
But did you
Many
see
of them didn't
though?
even vote for it. Many of them didn't even vote for it.
No, you're right. But do you see what Biden's been doing about that?
Oh,
All
yes,
those big
yes, he's
projects,
getting smart.
those
He's
big
getting smart with
billboards.
it.
Oh my God, they're big billboards. President Biden infrastructure, whatever, at all these giant sites where they're building and stuff. It's beautiful. So, you know, he's just getting into his groove, y'all. We just need to get him elected and save democracy.
Exactly.
Okay, we're coming up on 8 o'clock, and as far as Biden, it's the people around him that do a lot of the work. And that's why all the people are falling that were around Trump, because they're getting caught up in what they were doing for him.
Exactly.
Anyway, before we go, bringing it back to local real quick, uh, someone had mentioned about Michelle Obama saying when they go low, we go high. Locally here, we are seeing the beginning of the campaign season with negative campaigns, TV ads, and everything. How effective do you think these negative campaigns will be in these local elections? And what should their opponents do about it? Should they continue just to talk about their platform, or should they strike back?
Well, several years ago, I started hearing from a very smart political scientist in the peninsula named Rachel Beichhofer.
Oh, yeah,
And she, yeah, she's great. She really highlighted and started to prognosticate how elections would go, because she believed that there is success in negative partisanship. And negative partisanship means that a lot of people are going to generate their enthusiasm as a vote against type of situation. So Republicans are really going to come out because they really hate Democrats, and Democrats are going to come out because they really hate Republicans. So you would need to generate those voters to come out by showing how bad Republicans are and how bad Democrats are. That way you'll be able to shore it up. When I ran, I didn't particularly like doing that, even when a couple people were suggesting that I should. But it pays off for a reason. And I guess it's now more of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like it's got to happen every year.
Well, I do think so. I'll actually give you an example of like a real life example of someone's reaction. My husband and I are self-employed, and our business is located in House District 97, which is that Karen Greenhall, Mike Fagans race, which is a critical race. It was a redistricted seat. So Karen Greenhall is the incumbent. She took it from Alex Askew. But once it got redistricted, Mike Fagans is running against her. So my business is located in the district. So whenever you go to YouTube something on my IP address based on my location, they have those ads being targeted to us. So we're getting political ads. And at my front desk, you know, my staff working at my front desk, one of my employees was like, oh, hey, look at this. And was like, YouTubing something. And the first ad that came up was this like fire and brimstone ad for Karen Greenhall against Mike Fagans. And it was like, it was just performative outrage is all I can say. It was that's the best word, right, for it. And my staff looked at me and goes, like, that seems a little much. And now this is someone who is not, you know, my people will ask me about like who is on the ballot and stuff. And I try to give them, you know, nonpartisan as I can, but they know how I feel, right? Most of our people kind of fall in line with my beliefs. But they're not really political. And he goes, this is a lot. Like, it's too much. And so I think where Democrats need to go with messaging is snark, sarcasm, wit.
Yes.
Not using this fiery, you know, evangelical style, terrible design work. Like, it's not even good design work. We need to go low and hit them where it counts in with humor and with wit and with snark. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I was
And
just
college.
brainstorming the other day. Like, if we had enough money to get a lot of leaflets out and had enough people to staff the polls, all you would really need is a leaflet that said something along the lines of a couple pictures of January 6th, a couple pictures of McCarthy being removed, and a simple byline that says, "Do Republicans even want to govern?"
Mm.
Just hand that out. And then it would work for every single race for people who would approach the polls not really knowing in that last minute type of situation. Just remind them how much of a calamity it is when they have power.
Okay, let's hear from other hosts.
You know, you talked about District 97 and Karen versus Michael Fagans. I saw one of Karen's ads saying she wanted to get rid of the totality of the food tax, and that's what she worked. So she lowered everybody's taxes. But if you look at how they lowered the food tax, it probably saved you no more than $5 over the whole
If
year.
that much, Colonel.
It's that much.
If that.
So that was just a misnomer.
Yeah,
Wasn't even worth putting the bill through.
it's a
Okay.
talking point because people won't go check it out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can look at the bill.
The uninformed voter.
Nickel on
People know that they feel the pain of inflation, but they can't fully articulate where all the inflation is going to come from. So if they hear, "Hey, I am working with Governor Youngkin," because she throws Governor Youngkin's name in on all of her things, to reduce inflation, that's why I decided to cut the grocery tax. They're not going to know how much the grocery tax was actually cut. The fact that this is spread out over the state, so it could afford to be really small on the individual person. And the fact that a lot of that is inelastic in terms of demand, you're going to have to go buy food anyway. And just like if they said that they were going to cut the gas tax, I cut the gas tax for you. I shaved it off 2 cents.
Right.
That didn't save you any money.
Mhm.
What would save you money is big ticket items, housing going down, healthcare going down. That is what would really save people. But that is not something Karen Greenhall would want to fight for. So that's where our Stark should come back around.
Yes.
Yep.
Listen, when they tell you they're cutting taxes on one subject or one issue, they're making it up on another issue. You're still going to pay for it. You're still paying for it. So it's back to that wordsmithing. Cutting gas taxes. They're not going to cut anybody's gas tax. And if they do, the city's going to make it up, or the state's going to make it up on the revenue on you on some other.
Well, actually,
sales tax
Or put a toll on our downtown tunnel.
yeah,
Well, the gas prices, they'll just hike up. The station owners will just they'll hike up gas prices by a few cents, and they'll pocket that in profit, and they'll just say that it's because of gas prices, because of oil prices. So they hide that. It's garbage.
Yeah, it's just Econ 101. That's not a hard thing to figure out.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. We appreciate what a great discussion we have, and we're gonna have to do this again, especially before the election. So we'll pick another Thursday night where we'll bring everybody back to have further discussion about this. And also, you know, like I said in the beginning, just be an educated voter and pay attention to your city council and your school boards, because next year a lot of those positions will be open for re-election. So start paying attention now. Don't wait till the election season or cycle to start listening to what they have to say, because their voices kind of changed the last 3 months before the election. So look at what they're doing now. But I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight, and we appreciate you. And be aware, be informed, and most of all, be involved. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for having
you,
me.
everyone.
Bye-bye.